Hello and welcome. So what we're going to look at today is the predictions of the likelihood of a topic coming up in the IGCSE summer 2023, mainly looking at the regional paper here. Okay, so this is H regional, so the international GCSE. Now, first of all, this is just a predicted practice paper. There are 38 questions, 150 marks. I suggest about 3 hours. 1 mark, roughly 1 minute, 12 seconds. You can use your calculators, of course. And these questions have come from over the past 5 years. We have looked at the percentage of them coming up in paper 1 and paper 2. So, for example, indices comes up 167%. So that means it's pretty much guaranteed to come up in paper 1 or paper 2, but it was also very likely it'll come up in both. You are going to get an indices questions. 100% means that on every paper for like 2018, Jan 2019, there's always been a Venn diagram question. Okay, there's always been cumulative frequency in every set of papers. What I mean by that is the 1H and the 2H. Okay. So we've just taken the top topics. Now, how I suggest you use this. So the green, I suggest if you're aiming for a grade 6, you make sure you scrub up on the green because these topics come up quite frequently. And then if you're looking to get that 9 or 8 or 7, make sure you also have a look at the orange topics. Now, this is not something that you should just use for revision. This is in addition to revision. This is to help you, and there is no guarantee that these questions may or may not come up. Okay, so remember, this is just for revision. Please do your best and good luck. And also remember, when in doubt, work it out. And in between that, I've written a few things for you to have a look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of this paper. I'll do a few questions today, and then I will create another video to do a few more questions as well to complete it all. So make sure you have your calculator ready, and let's get going. Oh yeah, also I suggest if you haven't given the question a go yet, give it a go, pause the video, try it first, and then come to here for either hints, tips or clues. Okay, so the higher formula sheet, remember you can use anything on here. You know, it's always good to refer back to this. Sequences question, you should always write that on there when you have the sum. Quadratic equation, you might need to show your working, make sure you write that on there. I know your calculator does it for you. When you substitute in the A, the B and the C, including whether it's positive or negative, but if it says show your working and you're using your calculator, you need to write the quadratic formula. Lots of people forget this. Area of a trapezium is given to you at the front. Trigonometry, you do not need to know the sine, cosine or area of a triangle. It's all here for you. And remember, the capital letters signify the angles. Volume of a cone, volume of a prism, surface area, cylinders and spheres are all down here, okay? So make sure you know what's on there in case you need any of these. Right, let's get started. Okay, indices. This has come up so many times, so let's make sure we're happy with the types of questions. So 3x to the power of 5 times y to the power of 6. So remember, we need to do 3 to the power of 4, x to the power of 5 to the power of 4, and then 6 to the power of 4. So what is 3 to the power of 4? That is 81. X to the power of 5, then to the power of 4. Remember, with indices, if we raise to the power, we multiply them. This is going to give me x to the power of 20. And y to the power of 6 to the power of 4 is y to the power of 24. Okay, question 2. We need to simplify this. Give your answer as a power of 2. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So when we multiply and the bases are the same, we add the powers. So minus 5 plus 8 is 2 to the power of 3. And then it's going to be squared. So we know that this is 2 to the power of 6. And then give your answer as a power of 2. So this is perfect. So, you know, we're saying as a power of 2. This is 6 as a power of 2. What it doesn't want is if you'd have put 8, because 2 cubed is 8. If you'd have put 8 squared, it wants you to keep it as base 2. Okay, question 3. Express as a power of 10. So again, we want it 10 to the power of. So what do we know? We know down here we multiply, so we're adding because they're the same base. So I get 10 to the power of 360 divided by 10 to the power of, and 150 plus 90 is 240. What do we do when we divide? We take away the power, so I now have the square root of 10 to the power of 360 minus 240 is 120. What is the square root as an indice? Actually, a square root is to the power of a half. So now, again, we're going to multiply the powers here because we've raised it. We're going to get 10 to the power of 60. So that is our answer. Okay, question 4. Now, you have to give a reason for each stage if you're working. I saw this question, I thought it was a really nice one. So, you are supposed to read the question first. You're supposed to write down what you need. However, I know some people get ahead of themselves like, oh, I know this one, I know this, which is great. It's really good, you want to get ahead, but I would always stop. Let's figure out what we need. C, D, E. So C, D, E. So we want this angle here. Okay, so now, not sure where I'm going, so I'm going to write down exactly what I know. What do I know? Okay, here we go. I know that this is 132 divided by 2, which is 66. Okay, now it says write each stage of your working, give a reason. How did I get 66? So if I do 132 divided by 2 equals 66. Okay, if I've written that down, why have I written that down? And what is the reason? This is because the angle at the center of the circle is twice the angle at the circumference. Okay, brilliant. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is actually, this angle here is 180 minus 66, which is 114. Okay, how do I know that? That's because opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral, opposite angles in a cyclic, oh my golly, quadrilateral add up to 180 degrees. Okay, now I've spotted what I'm going to do. That means that this angle, I want a different colour. This angle here is 180 minus 114, which is 66 degrees. We already know that from earlier. How do I know that's 66? How do I know that's 66? That's because angles on a straight line, add to 180 degrees. Okay, so even if you're just writing down one angle, one method, etc., it's really good to make sure you do one step at a time with your reasoning. And then finally, that brings me to the last angle. I don't know if you noticed, but this is a triangle now. So I know that 180 minus 66 plus 16 is 98. Now, make sure you use brackets, please, because if you put into your calculator 180 minus 66 plus 16, remember this is if you don't use the brackets, it will do minus 66 and then add at 16. Okay, and so that means D is 98 degrees, and why is that? Angles in a triangle add to 180 degrees. It is really important that if it says give a reason for each stage of your working, here are my different stages, and I've written all the reasons in full sentences, and it's so easy to get marks here. So well done. Okay, question 5. So we see these quite often. Mean from a frequency table. It wants us to work out an estimate for the mean. Okay, first thing I do is I'm going to write the midpoint between 0 and 10. 5, 10 and 20, 15, 20 and 30, 25, 30 and 40, 35, 40 and 50, 45. Remember, I'm going to multiply that by my frequency. So we've got 5 times 8 is 40. 15 times 10, 150. 7 times 25, 175. 2 times 35 is 70. 3 times 45 is 135. And we need to add that all up, which is 570, and divide that by our total frequency. 8, 10, 7, 2, 3 is 30. They also gave us a clue in the question, 30 days. So 570 divided by 30 gives me 19. Exactly. Now, I don't know if you read at the bottom, sometimes it says, does your answer, check your answer makes sense, okay? You know you're right if your answer is in between 0 and 50 for a start. It should be, because if it's out of this range, well, how can our mean amount of snow from our data, if your answer was 94, you've definitely made a wrong calculation. And then think about where most of them lie. Well, actually, you can see here there's 8, there's 10, 7, 2. So it's roughly around this area. It's not necessarily the one with the highest, but you can see here this is where most of the data lies. So it's going to be around there. So it does make sense. Now, remember as well, exam, please write your finished answer on the line as well. Let's make it easy for the examiner to find your answer, and you have shown all of your work in. Question 6. 30 women and 20 men at the gym. The mean height of all 50 people. What does that tell me? That means if I divide all of the heights by 50, I get 167.6. And what does this include? This includes the total men plus the total women, doesn't it? Like, I'm just drawing pictures here. This is how my brain works. I like to draw pictures to see what's going on. So the total men plus the total women divided by 50 is going to give me 167.6. It says the mean height of the men. Okay, so I know that this bit here is the total men, isn't it? The total men divided by 20 is 182. Work out the mean height of the 30 women. Okay, how do I work out the mean of 30 women? I need the total women divided by 30, and that's going to give us the mean. Okay, perfect. So I've written down everything I need. What can I now do? Okay. 20 times 182 is going to give me the total men. So 20 times 182 is 3,640. Okay, so I know what the total men is now, 3,640. Do I know the total women? No. But am I able to work it out from this? Absolutely. Okay, I know that 3,640 plus the total women divided by 50 is 167.6. So what am I going to do? Multiply both sides by 50. So we get 3,640 plus, we know that's the total women, is 8,380. I'm going to minus 3,640 from both sides. Minus 3,640. And so that means my total women is 4,740. Okay, brilliant. Now I can put that back up here. 4,740. If I divide that by 30, I get 158. So the mean for the women is 158. And again, I write down what I know. I imagined I knew what was going on, and then I realised what I needed to find out. Question 7. At the end of 2017, the value of tomorrow's house was 220,000. The value of Rahim's house was 1,600. At the end of 2019, okay, right, so guys, this is 2 years later, isn't it? 2 years later. Tomorrow's house had decreased by 20%. A decrease of 20%, what is that? That's 100% minus 20%. So that means I'm finding 80% of a number. So my multiplier is just saying what's the decimal of the percentage, is 0.80. If I increase by 30%, well, what's that? That's 100%. Plus 30%, that equals 130%. And what's my multiplier? 1.3. Okay? At the end of 2019, whose house had the greater value? Okay, so let's start Tamara. T for Tamara. She was 220,000. And then 80%. Now, this happened first year and second year. So you can either write it twice, or we can have a look and actually, do you remember squaring it? This is a bit like compound interest, okay? So, when I have Tamara's, I know that her house is 176,000. Perfect. Then Rahim, he's 160,000. His was increased 2 years. He actually gets 208,000. Okay, so have we finished the question? No, because we need to answer whose house had the greatest value. So let's write a full sentence, shall we? So this is going to be Rahim's house has the greatest value. Okay, and we know that that is because 208,000 is greater than 176,000. Jane bought a new car 3 years ago. At the end of the first year, her value had decreased by 12.5%. Now remember, so if you had 100%, if we minus 12.5, how much do we have left? 87.5. And then, what is this as a multiplier? Which is the decimal, divide by 100, 0.85. And then it decreased by 10%. Well, that's easy. If something decreases by 10, we want 90% of the number, multiply 0.9 for the next 2 years. At the end, her car was valued at this. Okay, so what do we know? Her starting price decreased by 12.5%. So that's a multiplier of 0.875 for 1 year, actually. Then it decreased again by 10%, which our multiplier is 0.9 for 2 years, okay? And then this give me 17,010. Brilliant, so I now have an equation. So to find out what it was originally, I can just divide by these. So 17,010 divided by 0.875 times 0.9 squared. Or if you wanted to, you could have worked that out first. Divided by 0.875 times 0.9 squared. So my original car was 24,000. And does that sound right? Does that make sense? Should it be more than what happened? Absolutely. It's been decreased for the last 3 years. You know, and roughly that looks good. Okay, question 9. So, pressure, force and area. A storage tank exerts a force. Okay, so I'm going to get my colours out. Force, they've told us. It exerts a force. Fantastic, I'm going to highlight it. The base of the tank is in contact with the ground is a 4x2 rectangle. Work out the pressure. Okay, so I want the pressure. I got the force. All right, I need the area. They haven't given me an area. But what have they given me? They've given us the measurements. Do you know how to work out area if you've got a 4x2 on a rectangle? Of course, it's base times height. 4 times 2 is 8. We now have the area. This is the area. So literally, we can use our formula. Pressure, we don't know, equals force, which is 10,000, divided by our area of 8. Okay, so our area of 8, we're then going to get 1,250. Awesome. Okay, question 10. A box in the shape of a cuboid is placed on a horizontal floor. Okay, the box exerts a force. Oh my God. Right, so this time we have the force and the pressure. Oh, right, what? Let me find the formula again. Pressure equals force over area. Are you supposed to memorize this? Yes. So please do. So pressure, 187.5 equals our force, 180, over our area. Okay. How am I going to find out what the area is? So you can do a quick swap here. So A equals 180 over 187.5. But this is a bit of a trick. I know your exam's coming up. However, rearranging equations is on there. Some people like to use triangles. Let's make sure we understand what's going on. Let's say I said y equals 4 over x. Why can we do a straight swap? First of all, I'd multiply both sides by x. So I get yx equals 4. Now remember, if I want x equals, I can now divide both sides by y. So x equals 4 over y. It does so happen that it is a straight swap, so we are allowed to do that. So now we get our area is 0.96. Brilliant. Now it says the floor is a rectangle with length 1.2 and width something. So what is area? Area is base times height, or width times length. Okay, so 0.96 is our width. We don't know. They told us that was x. And our length, which is 1.2. So how am I going to find x? Well, I'm going to divide both sides by 1.2. So x equals 0.8. Brilliant. I'm going to write that here, 0.8. Okay, now let's see if this makes sense. Okay, I'm not just going to go blind here. We've got time. It's a 3-mark question. I've only spent 2 minutes on it. So let's see if this makes sense. If pressure equals force over area, they told us our pressure is 1875.5. That equals 180 over our area. Now our area is 1.2, which is our length times 0.8. I'm going to put this into my calculator and see if it's right, because then this is guaranteed marks. Why wouldn't I do that? Okay. Absolutely wrong. I know why it's absolutely wrong, because I put a times instead of a division. Whew. Absolutely correct. Okay. Brilliant. 187.5. Whew. Guaranteed 3 marks.